Today I'm talking to Michael LaFido. He's a top luxury real estate agent in Chicago. He's the author of the book Marketing Luxury and the best-selling book Cracking the Real Estate Code. Michael's marketing has been featured in the cover story in Crane Chicago Business and highlighted at noon on Fox News Chicago Business Hour. Today, Michael and I talk about marketing for our listings, taking it to the next level, and more importantly, what it is our clients want and how to communicate it and deliver on it. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today, I am so excited. We have a top-selling real estate agent who is an author, speaker, and absolute rock star, Michael LaFido from Chicago. Michael, welcome, and thanks for being here today.
Appreciate you having me on.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been licensed since 2000, and I've run two businesses. I have a small luxury real estate team here in the Chicagoland market. We also sell cute and small, so we don't just do the $1 million plus properties, but that's kind of what we focus on. And I run a luxury consulting company that helps agents and teams with basically how to break into and dominate selling high-end and luxury homes for their given marketplace. So
clearly that's what we're going to be talking about today. And of course, I've got a few more questions on top of that. So tell us as we get started, so we learn a little bit more about you. How did you become a real estate agent? What was the path that led you to this career?
Yeah, so I went to Northern Michigan University, and during the summer months, I was a teacher. Not the summer months. I was a teacher coming out of Northern Michigan. So I was a high school health and PE teacher. And during the summer months, to make some extra money, I had a deck cleaning and staining business where we would wash and stain decks. And I was staining a gentleman's deck, and he happened to, I didn't know at the time, but he owned a small boutique real estate company. And he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about real estate? You're really good with people." He goes, "My top agent is a former teacher and coach." And so long story short, about 3 months later, I got my real estate license. And so I looked at it as just part-time at first, like, hey, if I can sell one or two extra homes a year, that's the equivalency of me coaching a winter sport or a spring sport. And but obviously, after some time, I became really successful. And my 6th or 7th year in the industry, I was the second leading producer for the entire Midwest for a company called Realty Executives.
Wow.
And that kind of opened up my consulting business, where people were like, "Hey, I hear you're part-time, but you're doing really well. Can you share with us?" And so my first speaking gig was at a Women's Council Realtors Conference, and that's kind of how I launched my consulting business.
Oh, that's so exciting. So, Realty Executives, I don't know if they still, but it's in Atlanta. There's a lot of suburban markets, a lot of land deals out here. So we're familiar with that.
Okay.
So you get into real estate. I mean, from cleaning decks to selling luxury homes. That's a pretty cool story. And you get into the business. So tell us a little bit about, how did that happen? Did you get in the business and just start selling? I mean, clearly you had to break into that market, or did you have a network from your existing clients from your former business, or how did that work?
Yeah, so there's a progression. They call it the food chain, from the entry level houses to the higher end. It takes time, and there's a lot of limiting beliefs in this industry. And one of the things that we teach when I do speaking and trainings is I tell agents that you don't have to be with a certain brand, you don't have to be in the industry a certain number of years, or live in a gated community yourself, or drive a certain car. Those are all false. Those are limiting beliefs. Maybe your broker wants you to believe that, or some other agent, but that just certainly isn't the case. So for me, how I really started breaking to the high end and luxury is I was doing some coaching consulting for an agent that specialized in high end, and there were a lot of ahas that I was teaching them, And I realized, man, they're rock star agents in the luxury space, and I'm teaching them a ton of things. So we made the shift. I used to have a product. I'm looking for it. I can't find it right now. I had a product that I used to sell for agents. It was DVDs and CDs. It was called the Ultimate Listing Blueprint, and we focused on helping agents get more leads, more listings, and more closings. And when I was coaching this top group of agents that specialize in luxury, I said I can apply those same principles for other price points with luxury, because there was such a need and there was a void in our industry.
Wow.
Where I felt like that was needed.
Interesting. So it was almost like it sounds like you found there was a lot of training in our industry in general, but not focused on luxury. Is that not the same techniques maybe?
Yeah, not this. I do a lot of aggressive, outside the box, unconventional marketing, and I feel the real estate industry as a whole is pretty traditional inside the box, but I feel like even more so with high end and luxury, even more so. And so I think in most marketplaces, that highest price point of homes, it might be 10 million plus in Beverly Hills, and it might be 800,000 in Atlanta, but that highest price point, it's in every market. There's a shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market, and when you get to that buyer's market, that price point in every market, where there's a lot of inventory, days on the market increase, years supply of inventory, in some cases, a seller really needs to hire somebody that's aggressive, that thinks outside the box, and so I feel like that's solely needed in the luxury space.
That's great. So I've got two questions lingering in my mind right now. One is how do you teach agents to break into that market, and the other is the challenge that agents have in that market of what is the outside the box marketing. And there's lots of outside the box marketing we could do, but what actually works? Because there's outside the box marketing that might get attention and might get us clients, but the real goal is what are we going to do that's actually going to get the deals closed? So let's maybe start with number one. What are you talking about? And I want to cover those and then talk about your listing presentation as well. So what are the ways that you help agents, or what would be like your maybe top 3 tips on how an agent who's considers themselves just a regular Joe Schmo is going to break into that luxury market?
Yeah, so I always make assumptions, and for this assumption, I'm going to assume that maybe one of your listeners doesn't have a huge marketing budget, because obviously if you have a lot of money, it's easier to get there perhaps because of exposure, and you can, I don't want to say buy yourself there, but you can get more exposure. So from the very minimum, iron sharpens iron, and just like Robert De Niro in the movie Meet the Parents, it's tough to break into that circle of trust, as he said in the movie. And so how do you break in that circle of trust with high net worth individuals, people that have money? And the fastest way I suggest agents is start a luxury networking group. And the Cliff Notes version of that is just start a networking group that meets monthly, and it's by invite only, and business owners that cater to high net worth individuals. And I believe the best way to get referrals is give referrals. So lead with a giving hand. And so even if you're not a luxury agent and your average list price, I'm making up the number, but it's 150 grand, and you're in an average list price market of 400,000, you can still start, this group, because if you bring value to people and you connect people, it's reciprocity. You're walking out of your building, someone opens the door for you, you want to open it for the guy behind you. It's called reciprocity. And so if you bring enough value to people, they're going to want to, reply. They're going to want to give value back in return.
Exactly. And then just study your market, know your market. So when you do get those referrals, you deliver. Oh, what's that?
I'm muting my phone. Sorry.
No worries. Hey, we're real estate agents. We get it, right?
Yeah, but I get ADD when I present. I always tell people, hey, put your phones on mute. You're not going to just distract your neighbor, but you're going to distract me. So sorry.
Exactly. Well, I think it's the nature of most real estate agents. We all have, it's almost like a requirement for being a realtor. You've got to have a little bit of it. So tell us a little bit about outside the box marketing. Do you have a story you can share with us on a big listing that you had and something you did that was different that got it sold, or that just had reaped positive results?
Yeah. So, I'm a big believer that when everyone goes left, go right. When everybody shows up with, their laptop or their iPad, do something differently. And not just on the listing appointment itself, but throughout the transaction. And as I mentioned, I feel like as you go up, and I hate to use the term food chain, but as you go up in the food chain and you go up higher priced homes, I feel like agents compete even more so by lowering their fee. Mm-hmm. And, when I speak on national stages, I've been on the road this week. I'm going to Florida, but 6 weeks in a row doing trainings. I ask the audience, raise your hand if you want to be known as the lowest priced agent in your market. And of course, nobody raises their hand. So I'm not going to get into fees and that kind of stuff, but I am talking about value, bringing up value to clients. You don't have to compete by lowering the fee. But getting back to your original question about outside the box marketing.
Mm-hmm. I liked where you were going, so we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So as far as outside the box marketing, you really, as an agent, have to step back and you have to understand trends. Market research is a writer downer for the listeners. As if you're in a relationship, and someone's trying to sell you something, you might say, hey, I got to check with my significant other. Well, if you're on a listing appointment or you're talking to a seller and they have pink wallpaper and market research suggests today's buyers don't want wallpaper, let alone pink wallpaper, now you're not saying, hey, in my opinion, I think you need to take that pink wallpaper down. Now you're saying, hey, market research
mm-hmm.
suggests. And so there's that transition. You're blaming it on market research.
Exactly.
But you really need to know the trends and that sort of thing. And so depending on what buyers are looking for, you want to apply those to your listings. And so some ideas of, outside the box marketing, for example, I was selling a house that had a twister themed bathroom. If you remember the board game with the spinner and the twister.
Right.
And for example, on this property, I think I was the third agent on, the first two didn't have any luck, no showings, matter of fact. And
oh, wow.
Now they didn't show any photos of the twister themed bathroom. And with good reason, I understand.
Love where you're going with this.
490 out of 500 buyers probably would want to rip that bathroom out and put a different bathroom because it's so taste specific, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
the way I live in my home, you live in our home is to our own taste. And so not too many people want a twister themed bathroom when I say, I mean, literally the red circle in one of the tiles and the yellow in another and the green
right.
and the blue. And it's very taste specific, but I looked at it as an opportunity. So we actually took a photo of the bathroom. We actually brought out the board game and placed it on the kitchen, or excuse me, on the bathroom sink. And so people knew what the heck it is, what they were looking at. And that was, we got that property featured in the Chicago Tribune when they say, at the time, hey, what will $3 million buy you? And they did 3 properties in the Chicagoland market. I represented the other one where it was, the headline was Trains, Trump, or Twister Bathroom.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So the train was, I was selling a house and I sold it in River Forest, Illinois. When I took on the property, there hadn't been a sale above $2 million since 2009. And we got it sold for over $2 million. It had a train that went around the 1 acre property. And I featured the train in our video and our marketing. And it got us, we were Realtor.com's property of the week.
Oh, wow.
So looking at each property and putting your personal thoughts aside as an agent
mm-hmm.
and trying to look at it as, hey, what can we get attention? Because I firmly believe your responsibility as an agent to your clients in Georgia and as an agent in Illinois is to draw the attention of more buyers and buyers agents amongst on the property.
I love it. Right. And well, I do find, I love what you said about take your personal opinion aside. It's so common that agents quickly assume things about properties, but we're not the ones buying it.
No.
We're not the ones buying it. Our job is to put the buyers in front of it that are buying it and that do like it and getting really specific. Love it.
So, yeah, I mean, our industry is getting older in age. And so I use the term Debbie Dinosaur or Dinosaur Dan. We have a lot of dinosaurs in our industry, not just in age, but in thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, you get Debbie Dinosaur or Dinosaur Dan go on a listing appointment, and they personally are 70 years old and they love pink wallpaper and brass. So they tell the seller, oh, you don't need to do anything, but put your personal preferences aside and what does market research suggest. So you need to be able to articulate that to your client in a way that they're not offended. And it really comes back to their why. Why are they selling? Why are they interviewing you? Jere, Jere, you told me that you really wanted to be, with your grandkids in Florida, and that's why you wanted to sell. Well, if I knew there were 2 or 3 things that could get your home sold faster for more money, so we can get you with your grandkids, would you be open to that? And so, again, how do you articulate it to them?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We'll focus on the what are we trying to accomplish here? Are we trying to decide if your taste is right and mine's wrong? Or are we trying to get the house sold?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I shared with you offline.
Yes, thank you.
So I just got off the presses end of September. But one of the things I talk about is the most listened to radio station, no matter where your listeners are listening right now, is WIIFM. That stands for What's in It for Me. So when you're working with a buyer or a seller, they don't care about your awards. They care about if you went to a conference, what are the nuggets you take back from the conference that you're going to implement on their home to get their home sold.
Exactly.
So remember, when you're creating marketing pieces or a message to a potential client, all they care about, what are you going to do to save them time, aggravation, and make more money?
And anything you tell them, I always say, this is important to you because this is important to you. What this means to you in selling your house is this. What this means to you for what you're going to get. So I love that. So tell us a little bit about, do I want to ask you about your book first, or what I really want to ask you about is your listing interviews and when your conversations on commission and conversations with the seller, how do those go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm looking, I don't see it right now, but one of the things that an agent needs to do is, like I said, show up differently than your competition. Obviously for you, maybe show up with a male. For me, maybe show up with a female. Maybe there's strength in numbers. Show up differently than your competition. But early in my listing appointments, I'm honest with them. I'm direct. I say, Jere, I'm by far going to be one of the most expensive agents you interview, but let me share with you why. And so I kind of let their guard down, and so I let them know early on, if they focus on netting more money because of more exposure, which increases their likelihood of more traffic, the more traffic or foot traffic we get in through qualified showings, the higher probability we can get them a better asking price. So I really focus on that. And I use the analogy that I played college sports. I played football in Northern Michigan. And I'll never forget one year, they posted that practice itinerary before every practice. And at the end, it would just say conditioning. That was all it said. And I remember, my teammates, we'd always focus on, I wonder what we're going to do for conditioning after practice. And we'd be stressed out and thinking about it the whole time. Well, the next year, when they posted the workout schedule, the practice, they told us exactly what we're going to be doing for conditioning. And although we weren't necessarily looking forward to it, we at least knew, and we kind of let our guard down, and we're like, okay, at least we know. And so the same idea, when I build some rapport, and before I go into my presentation, I let them know that I feel like sellers at least let their guard down, because otherwise the whole time they're going to be thinking, I wonder what he charges. I wonder when he charges. Now they're at least thinking, I know he's not going to be cheap. I know he's not going to be cheap. But now they focus on what I do differently than the people that they're interviewing after me or before me.
That's smart. That's really smart. So do you start out with a commission rate, or do you just tell them I'm going to be more, go through it and then, okay.
I don't answer. I don't talk about the actual fee or what I charge till the end, but I just keep the general. If they say, well, what do you charge? I said, Jere, we'll get to that, but it'll be towards the end.
Okay, that's great. That keep their attention.
Same thing if they call me and say, ring, ring. Yeah, hey, I got your name for so-and-so. What do you charge? So I haven't even seen your house. If I told you 4%, would you hire me? If the answer is yes, you're asking the wrong questions. I said, my fee, it ranges based on price point. If I'm helping you on the buy side, if I'm going to put more time in. So I can't give you a fee over the phone.
That's brilliant. That's smart. Do you get that question very often over the phone?
when I used to do more prospecting, right? So
Right. Yeah.
when I did more prospecting for sale by owners or builders or that sort of thing, you'd get more of those questions.
So remind me, how long have you been doing this? Since what year?
Since 2000.
That's right, since 2000. So almost 2 decades.
A little over 17 years.
Yeah,
So.
long time. So in that time in this business, what has been your biggest aha about being a real estate agent? So many. I mean, not only are you a successful agent, but you're training so many successful agents and bringing agents from not successful to successful.
Well, my biggest aha, I learned from one of my mentors, a guy named Dan Kennedy, and it was probably in 2006. So I wish I learned it before I got in the industry. It was, don't think like a real estate agent, think like a marketer. Mm-hmm. Don't think like a real estate agent, think like a marketer. We're not in the real estate business. We're in the business of marketing our real estate business. Mm-hmm. I want agents, when I speak and I train, I want them to attract more business versus chase. Attracting is your database, your sphere, trusted advisor. Chasing is prospecting, lead generation. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. You always kind of need to do some of that, mm-hmm. but the majority of it should be attract business versus chase business.
Exactly. And what do you wish that you knew coming into this business that you know now?
Not to wait 12 to 13 years before I start going after high-end and luxury homes.
So what made you finally decide to do that?
That the one group that I was coaching, and I realized that they needed it, and that was a $100 million plus producing group. If they needed it, and they're rock stars in their marketplace that specialize in luxury, I knew that everybody else, and then so I started going after that business as an agent. In other words, I was going to really go in and start dominating selling high-end homes. Mm-hmm. At the time, I would define, by the way, definitions change, but I define luxury as 3 times whatever the average sale price is for any given market.
Okay.
So in the Chicagoland market, if 300 is the average sale price, I would technically define it as 900,000. But if somebody's in Rochester, New York, and 125 is the average, then I would define it as 375 is luxury for that market. Mm-hmm. I know different brands define luxury differently. For example, Christie's, it's really like $1 million and above is what they define luxury. And Remax,
$1 million doesn't buy much in certain markets, though.
No, I was just out at Inman Luxury last week, and for $1 million, you might get a little condo.
Exactly. So tell us. So you're an author of how many books?
I've written a few books. So Marketing Luxury, which I guess I don't have a copy around here, and then actually I do. And then my most recent is Luxury Listing Specialist. And then I co-authored a book with my mentor called Ultimate Entrepreneur, and so I was a co-author.
All right, Isaac, you've got all these books. That's 3 so far. Ultimate Entrepreneur was the last one?
Yep, Ultimate Entrepreneur.
Okay. And Isaac, everybody who listens to this regularly knows Isaac's the guy. Well, you met Isaac. He's the guy in the background. Yep. Keeping track. He's laughing at me right now. So we've got, let's start over. Marketing Luxury.
So Marketing Luxury is a book that I wrote to consumers. So it's a book that I offer for any agents that coach with me or are interested in coaching. They basically will write the forward. The book's written, but they'll write the forward to it, so it'll be custom. Mm-hmm. I'll add their name, forward written by, but it's not on Amazon. You can't purchase it. That's just for my coaching clients. It's written towards home sellers. So if you're trying to differentiate, you go on a listing appointment, you leave the seller a book.
Brilliant.
The fastest way to become an expert, I believe, is authorship. And the second is, public speaking or certification. So, I do all 3, right? And
right.
And then the other book, which is the entrepreneur book, Ultimate Entrepreneur, that was a anthology book where there's 5 different authors. Ultimate Entrepreneur Success Secrets.
Okay.
That's a great book. My mentor Dan Kennedy, he's the owner of a company called Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. Again, I've learned a lot on marketing from those folks. And then the most recent book told you is hot off the press, called Luxury Listing Specials. That is written towards real estate agents. It's 186 pages. I use a lot of visuals because most people learn with good visuals. A former teacher in me, I use a lot of visuals in my teachings as well. And real estate agents, by the way, should use a lot of visuals in their buyer presentations and their listing presentations. You can't have a one-size-fits-all listing presentation. We don't have time to cover this, but DISC personality. I'm a huge DISC personality guy, and DISC. You can Google DISC personality and learn about it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And basically, I believe you have to have 3 types of listing presentations. One that's more bottom line for the D or the I, a slower paced one for the S and the C. So S's and C's are slower. They're more skeptical by nature. And so you got to have more visuals, third-party validations. You need to talk a little bit softer and slower. You need to adapt to them. And then you have to have a mixed presentation. Maybe the husband's bottom line and the wife is slower. So you got to have a mixed presentation.
Great. I love it. So do you keep, when you go to a listing presentation, do you have kind of walk us through that. Do you do it in a 2-step process, or some people do 2 meetings, some people do a meeting and a call? I've heard some people just do one. How do you give us your process?
My time is very valuable, as is theirs. Again, I specialize in high net worth individuals, so getting them to sit down twice is difficult, but it really depends on their personality, okay? And so that's where you have to read. It's not a one-size-fits-all. In a perfect world, for me, it's a one-time meeting, and so they're pre-sold on me. I send them a pre-listing package. I know their personality types. I know what their wants and their needs are because I ask certain types of questions. I know what their expectations are if their home was listed before, what they liked or didn't like with their previous agent. So they're pre-sold on me. So recently I was recruiting a top agent on my team, and I went on a $4 million listing appointment. And this guy just wanted to talk. He wanted to talk about his garden and how he makes jardiniere and how he makes blueberries. He offered me a blueberry smoothie. I haven't had blueberries since I was 10 years old, but I took him up on it. And my kids were like, "Dad, you had blueberries?" But at the end, this agent that was going to join my team, we sat at my car and talked down the street afterwards on, "Hey, questions? Do you have, She goes, "You never went into your presentation." Again, she's still taught, like most agents, that you have to have your presentation, like you're selling cut.
Yes.
Like you're not selling Cutco knives. You don't have a set presentation. So based on his body language, by the way, he was pre-sold on me because my pre-listing package, I did bring my video book because I have a video book that shows my videos and that kind of stuff. But I really just build rapport. Theodore Roosevelt once says, nobody cares how much you know until they know you care. So I'm a driver. I'm a bottom line guy. And for me, that's difficult. I got to slow down and build rapport where I want to get right into why I'm different and show them. But no, I got to slow down.
That's great. So tell us about the luxury listing specialist. What's the outline of that book? What are we going to learn when we read it?
So the luxury listing specialist book is, and I'm looking around here. The luxury listing specialist book is, here we go. It's basically my certification. It's simplified. So I have a certification where we offer 2 workbooks and 7.5 hours of training online. Basically, part 1 of our certification is helping agents with the mindset, their marketing, their pre-listing packages, the best ways to utilize video today, and the actual best practices from a listing appointment. So basically, everything up until the signed listing agreement is part 1 of my certification. Part 2 is, hey, you got that trophy listing or that high-end listing. What are the best practices now to actually get the darn thing sold? And so the book takes those same concepts and helps them. So they'll discover how to double their income while working less, how not knowing your numbers is costing you more money, 7 best practices to utilize video to sell homes faster, the Steve Jobs approach to selling luxury homes, why lifestyle marketing is not optional anymore, how to leverage event-based marketing to attract buyers and more clients, and how to utilize publicity and media to sell your luxury home. So that's what we cover in the book.
That's great. All right, so I'm
And
ordering. So can we get this book on Amazon? Of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll provide a link to everybody to order the book as well. Have you sent that to us yet?
No, I will.
Okay, well, let's make sure, and Isaac, I know you're listening, but let's make sure we get a link to that book so everybody can order it on Facebook Live and through our website. And, well, the podcast, everybody, you'll hear it. Go to Amazon. Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon. Look up
Luxury Listing Specialist.
Yeah, Michael
By
LaFido.
Michael LaFido. Not LaFido. I shouldn't have
Not
said
LaFido.
that. We should edit that out, but we won't. Anyway.
No, you're fine.
All right, so I like to tease. So anyway, and we probably covered this, but just to bring it back home, because I know we had talked about this, we wanted to really make sure that the listeners heard this on our interview. What is the biggest void you see in the luxury market today?
Yeah, the biggest void that I see in the luxury market today is basically lifestyle marketing, and what lifestyle marketing is how are you positioning the home to potential buyers so they can visually see themselves moving in. Mm-hmm. And so the core component that I want to focus on, I think the biggest void is how are agents positioning the home both online and offline through photos, video, descriptions, so that the vast majority of potential buyers can visually see themselves moving in. Mm-hmm. I am shocked when I speak across the country, like I'm doing a training in Florida this week, as I mentioned. I had submitted, there are about 150 top luxury agents that are doing well over $100 million in volume that I'm presenting to. Mm-hmm. And I had them present to me properties, if they have a stale listing, I hate to use that term, but a stale listing, a property that they're not getting the activity, the traffic, maybe the seller's frustrated and pressuring the listing agent to come up with more creative ideas to get it sold. Mm-hmm. I think there's a huge void in the industry that agents aren't doing a good enough job of positioning the mm-hmm. home most effectively through amazing photos and descriptions, and not just great quality of photos, but what's in the photos. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking about staging, but there's a lot. It's not
describing and knowing the house and what the amenities are and what the benefits are, really being able to describe what it's going to be like to live in this house. I think is what you're getting at, and the lifestyle.
Yes, but not just describing, because let's face it, if the photos suck, can I say suck?
You can say this is a podcast, not the radio. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, but if the photos suck, you could have the world's best copywriter in the world write an amazing description. They're not going to read it. So it starts with the photos. You got to mm-hmm. have amazing photos, and I'm not just talking quality, but what do they see?
Exactly. So, give us, because we're going to get this book, but I know you had 7 tips on leveraging video, which probably has a lot to do with getting the message of lifestyle out. You want to give us a couple of your best examples, or maybe even stories you can share on what you've done on some properties?
Yeah, so video is really important. I can't cite the source because I don't remember it right now, but 73% of sellers, when asked if they would hire an agent that would create a video to market their home versus an agent who didn't, 73% said they'd hire the agent who uses video. So video isn't going away, folks. There's different types of video you can do. So there's video as an agent that you can do to differentiate yourself, to bring value to your market, to attract. So educational videos for buyers, sellers, or market updates. That's a tip, Jere, for agents. Mm-hmm. But the tip for agents on video on how to sell homes, there's things that you can do free, like Facebook Live videos. Maybe you're doing an open house, a broker open. You can do a video at the property for free on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there's more expensive type of videos where you're bringing in film crews or drone footage and video, mm-hmm. or maybe bringing in cars. I did a video where I brought in $2.5 million worth of vehicles for the video. The house has got a 22-car garage. It's an $11 million property. So we brought in 3 Lamborghinis, 2 Bentleys, and 2 Rolls Royces, 7 vehicles valued at $2.5 million for the video. Now, again, you don't need to do that. But I'm helping an agent right now. I'm coaching her up in Nashville. She's got a condo, a penthouse condo, mm-hmm. beautiful. They share a common garage. In other words, in this condo building, but she's offering two spots when everybody else in the building's got one. So guess what? I'm coaching her up. She's bringing in 2 nice cars, and we're going to incorporate not just a nice photo in the MLS showing the 2 beautiful cars, which will get buyers' attention, like, oh, they got 2 spots versus 1 in this building.
And they'll
but
pay
we're
attention.
Incorporating in video. We're going to do video on it. She's going to do a Facebook Live. So just accentuating. Our job is to accentuate the best features of the home and the location and downplay the least favorable.
Exactly. And in a way that people will listen and notice, I think.
They got to notice. Guess what? If you're producing a 2-minute video and the first 10 seconds suck, they're not going to look at the 11 through 20 second, let alone minute and a half. So one of the people that I'm doing this training in Florida, there was an agent, she's selling a $9.8 million property in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving a fresh eyes analysis to the photos and the video. The video starts out with the drone flying over, and it's showing that the house, it looks like it backs up to a FedEx big distribution.
Oh, no.
So, I'm like, get that out of the video, period. And if you're going to keep it, do it at the tail end where they've already bought in a little bit and like everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like everybody gets templated in their videos and they start with aerial, but they're not considering, well, is that aerial really showing what people need to see first about the house? It's great. Just be mindful. How about that? I mean, that's a great tip.
Be mindful.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering perfectionist. However, I am a perfectionist in my photos and my video, and I probably drive both of my photographer and my videographers crazy. They probably don't like it when I put in an order, but I'll tell you, there's a difference with our photos and our videos and the competition.
Wow. So you've already given us a lot of this, but if there's one tip you have for agents to differentiate themselves to attract high-end clients, what is that?
Be authentic, be yourself. I'm not going to mention by name, but there's another luxury certification out there and they teach, say this instead of this, do this instead of this. And right. Yeah, you smile because you know.
I know. I just know that mindset, and I couldn't agree with what you're saying more. Yeah. It's been a pet peeve of mine in general in training. But yeah.
Be authentic. And this day and age where 10 to 15 years ago, if it was on the internet, it was true. Now, if it's on the internet, it's fake news. Mm-hmm. You got to be authentic. Be yourself. But remember, you are your brand. You are your brand online and offline. Mm-hmm. So have you Googled yourself lately? Have you looked up your profile on LinkedIn or Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Does it show you the weekend party and you're doing a keg stand and you're trying to build a luxury business, or are you surrounding yourself? So you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Zig Ziglar once said, if you hang out with 9 dead broke people, you're bound to be the 10th. So who are you surrounding yourself
mm-hmm.
with? As an agent, I would want to surround myself with overachievers, people that get the most out of their talent and are successful, as opposed to the negative Nancy's. You go over to the coffee, they're complaining about your broker, or this, that, and the other thing. Stay away from them.
Well, it's toxic, and the energy that goes into that, it takes so much more energy than it takes just to be successful. So tell us, behind you, over your right shoulder, is a poster that says, "Prove them wrong." What's the story behind that?
Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. The last page of my book, I sign it. Prove them wrong. I can't find it here, of course. There it is. In my book, I have it. Prove them wrong. That's that same picture you see there.
Awesome.
It was a picture of me in a Ferrari proving them wrong. So we all have that person, whether it be a teacher, a former coach, maybe your broker, maybe your significant other, maybe your ex that said you wouldn't be able to be successful. And that's called, there's intrinsic motivation, or sometimes we need extrinsic motivation. And so I had an agent that says that won't work in this marketplace, or this, that, and the other thing. I love proving people wrong. Our systems that I teach in our certification have been proven to work with all brands,
mm-hmm.
okay? Big firms, small firms, female, male, older agent, younger agent. I have an agent, her name's Joan. I'm not going to say her last name. Joan's in the Dallas market with Keller Williams. Before my class, she had never listed anything above 500 in her life and never sold anything above 700 in her life. She's probably around 55 to 60 years old. She went on a $5.1 million listing appointment after our class because we empowered her to step out of her comfort zone. That's where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
Prove them wrong. It's a great reminder for me every day. I tell my agents the same thing.
I love it. Barbara Corcoran, did you read her bio or do you know about her? I mean, I'm sure you know who she is. Well,
yeah, I know Barbara, but I don't know about the prove them wrong.
Well, she says one of her biggest motivators, I'm sure you remember, she had a real estate business with her. I don't know if she was married to him, and he had an affair with the secretary, and he said, "You'll never make it without me. You'll never cut it in this business without me." And that just rang in her ear. And it was almost more to prove him wrong than to even succeed. And she talks about that in her book, but it drove her to really become successful. It's great. It's great. So I've read her bio like 3 times because I love it. Oh yeah.
So I believe we need visual reminders. Some people have visual boards, whatever. You got to be reminded of your why a lot. So for me, it's my family. I'm very grateful that my wife doesn't have to work, and so prove them wrong, whatever it is. Whatever people are telling you can't do, I love it. I love when people tell me that won't work in this market.
So usually I say it about now. I have a couple more questions. I was going to ask you the one thing, even though we've done a lot of one things, and one thing could be prove them wrong. But before we do that, we've got your 3 books, which we're going to order this luxury listing specialist book right now. Cool. In the meantime, other than the books you've written, what is the one book you would recommend our listeners read, or if they're me, listen to?
That's a good question. So I love, and I think I have a copy around here somewhere. I love the book from Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. That's a great book.
Comes up a lot on this show. Yeah,
it's a great book for business. But I have another book from Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages.
Okay, I've heard of that one, but never on this show.
Has nothing to do with real estate, but I'm a big believer that if things are going well at home with your significant other or your wife or your husband, your business will flourish. And the 5 love languages teaches you to love your significant other in their love language. And so if the radio frequencies aren't connecting because you're on a different frequency, you're not going to have that deep connection. And so life is busy. Kids are busy. My kids are 2nd grade, 1st grade, kindergarten. So we're at that, and it gets more chaotic as we get older. But the 5 love languages, I think if you have a happy wife, happy husband at home, your business is going to be in a better position to be successul.
So true. I couldn't agree with you more. 5. Well, I think it's true on every level, not only with one another, but even I find the better I connect with my clients, the better we can service and help them because when they're connected to us, they can listen. One of the biggest complaints about real estate agents is they don't communicate. But if you think about, that you don't communicate, and if real estate agents had their biggest complaint about our clients, it would probably be that they don't listen. But how can they listen when we're not properly communicating? So.
And guess what? You can properly communicate and they still don't listen, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah.
So I tell you, Never Split the Difference is my book. It's really helping me with that. It's awesome. I don't know if you've heard of it yet, but that one's come up a few times.
Yeah.
So the FBI guy, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. Then we'll go back to the frequency thing. So what is one thing that you would have our listeners take from this? If there's one thing of all the things we've talked about today, what would it be?
Focus on increasing your average sale price. Okay, that's when I do whether it's speaking and training, even if it's an hour presentation, my focus is helping agents increase their average sale price by 30% over the next year. So we're not talking if a listener's at 200,000, we're not saying go after all the millions and you're going from 200 to a million because that might not be attainable. But if you can go to 200 to 260,000, that would be a 30% raise selling the same number of homes next year at this time than this year. And how do you do that? You sprinkle a couple high-end or luxury properties here or there. Well, Mike, that take more time or they take more money. True. But I guarantee you get that first sale, you're going to look at that and say, wow, that's pretty exciting.
But there's value there. That's the whole point. Otherwise, we would make more money for selling them.
There's value there, and I believe the fastest way for any of your listeners to gain instant credibility from their sphere, their database, and their social media is they land that first trophy listing.
That's great and so true.
Even if they don't sell it, I hate to say that.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't sell. There's one agent, I won't say the name, that's got a celebrities listing. He lost the listing, but they still remember him as the guy who listed blank's home.
That's huge. It's huge. Well, and that just shows us how much we should appreciate our clients, especially our sellers, because it's a huge endorsement for us when they hire us.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Anything else we left out that we want to add before we close this out?
No, I mean, if anyone has any questions, they can send me an email, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com, michael@marketingluxurygroup.com. But no, that's it. Keep proving people wrong. Let's keep raising the bar for the industry. It needs to be raised, and yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great having you on today.